My name is Matt Anderson, and I'm Mosaic Miami's Executive Director. Mosaic Miami has been in this community for almost 90 years, and we're focused on creating unique opportunities for the community to come together, to have dialogue, and find common ground, which is more important now than ever during this really complicated time for our world. Mosaic Miami is really lucky to have this partnership with Gable Stage, where we get to get real and dig deep and give you all something to talk about on the way home in the car. So with tonight's panel, we're going to continue the party and continue Baseling la vida loca. So are you ready? Yeah. So we have a really rich panel of people that I'm lucky to call my friends, or that are really extraordinary and that are going to allow us to unpack this play and find our path to laughing in Spanish. I want to make the most of our time together. I could spend hours going over their bios in your program. And so I want to start unpacking this, and then we will give you some time to, we'll give you some time to ask some questions afterwards. So starting to my left, we have Nuria Richards, the Director of Development for the Locust Project. Then you have Nicole Martinez, the Associate Director of the Fountainhead Arts, and Betty Williams, who is an educator and content creator extraordinaire. Thank you. So, being from Miami and living in this modern world, I think we can all relate to laughs in Spanish. From our music, I mean, Burbujas de Amor, I'm never going to see that song the same again. Or Esa Morena, I could see my sixth grader self learning how to booty dance to that song. Or Mi Burrito Sabanero, I mean, that's a Miami staple during Christmas time. The way we talk to one another, I remember being 18 years old and moving to Western Massachusetts for college, thinking that everybody spoke like us, but no one understands estoy en la lucha, like it says on my shirt, or come mierdas. That stuff doesn't sit well with the Yankees in Massachusetts. Our family values, divorce, our immigration stories, those are all things that we can relate to. And I think that Estela's monologue towards the end, I think, hit home with a lot of us, especially the mothers in the room. We often hear about La Mamá Poderosa, the super mom, and all that society puts on the modern mother, and pressuring them to have to put their families first ahead of their careers and themselves. And there's a lot to unpack there, especially with these three extraordinary women. So I want to start the conversation off for you to get to know them and have them reflect on the play and weave that into their personal stories. And I'd like to start with Nuria.
Thank you. Thank you for putting this together, and thank you for inviting us. I think we have not had a free night. We have a 9-month-old. You know how it goes. But I am the development director at Locust Projects, Miami's longest running alternative art space. As you can see, English is not my first language, so I trip here and there. I am also the president of the board at Our Table, nationwide organization that supports women in the arts. What else do you want me to share?
So, given the themes in the play, what's your reflection on, weaving that into your personal story?
Okay, well, I have a mom. My mom has dementia, and it came very strong during the pandemic. We had a very weird relationship growing up. My mom got pregnant when she was 16 with my oldest sister. I am the youngest of 4. She got me when she was in her mid-30s. So she was hitting menopause when I was hitting my teenage years. It was hard. I'm also an artist, My mom is extremely conservative Catholic woman. And this new mom that I got through dementia, a person that is less stressed but also forgets she knows me every 2 seconds, it's different. And now that I have my own daughter, it's a lot. I have developed a new sense of respect for every woman out there with a kid. You have 2 kids.
I sure do.
You have 2 and 1 more coming. It's a big effort. It takes a toll in your body. We are all 3 professional women trying to make it in the United States, and the demand for us to perform, it's high. And I can just tell you, I was on my phone responding emails the day that I delivered because I felt I needed to respond to the demand. So I think that's something to observe, like people around us deserve all our support if we can provide it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Nuria.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Nicole. I am the Associate Director of Fountainhead Arts. It's Miami's only live-work artist residency. We've welcomed over 550 artists from 49 countries in our 15-year history. And if you are familiar or very engaged with the contemporary art world, many of the artists that we have brought to Miami through Fountainhead are today some of the most recognizable working artists globally. So it's a very kind of fast-paced organization. We have 3 artists in residency every single month. And as Nuria mentioned, I'm a mom of 2. I have 2 young children, Max and Luna, who are 3 and 1. And the parts of the play that really resonated with me, I looked at Mariana and I was like, oh my God, she's me, eldest daughter syndrome. She feels like she just has to perform and it has to be perfect and it has to be the best. And I realized that I very much set these expectations onto myself. I don't even necessarily feel like the people around me are demanding that of me. It's just what I demand of myself. And oftentimes that's really at odds with being a mom. And I love when people say moms can have it all because we really cannot. You can have it all, but you can only do 80% at each. And in most cases, that's good enough. But if you are a perfectionist, overachiever like me, then you just feel like you're never doing the best you can. And that, I think, is really challenging. So that's my reflection.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you, Matt. I'm Betty. Like he said, I'm an educator. I've been in and out of the classroom for the last 12 years. And I'm also a mom. I had my first daughter very young to today's standards. I had her at 23. I was still in college when I was in my last semester. And I always knew that I wanted to either be on TV or be a teacher. And then I always had this idea to be like a YouTube teacher, but I never had the time to do it. And then now we all see Miss Rachel, and I'm like, oh, that's what I wanted to do many moons ago. So yes, that is a project in the works. And so I resonated a lot with just the mommy here, not only because she wants to be called mommy, because that's very big in my house. I'm like, I'm not your mom, I'm mommy. But also in the part where she's trying to chase her dreams of being a star, but wanting to be present. And I feel a lot like I see these YouTubers or influencers, all these people that are moms, and I'm like, how are they doing it? And in my case, I refuse to put my children on social media, and I know I see it a lot, and I'm like, well, she is making it so big and she's so rich because she uses her kids, and that's like, I refuse to do that. So sometimes it's like that push and pull of, I know that I want to inspire and entertain people, but also my kids come first, so how do I balance that? And sometimes I feel like I've let my dream go because I put my kids first, and then sometimes that feels unfair. So I'm like, what's important to me, what's not? And so then even seeing the fight where it's like you sent me off to boarding school because you got a good role, and I'm just like, what if that ever, I'm thinking like, what if that ever happened to me? Like, how would I take that? And I don't know until it happens. I don't know until I get there. So that was my reflection. I resonated a lot with La Mami of the show.
Thank you. So, Nuria, Miami's art market is on the world's radar, and you've been a part of that journey to get there, and you've worn a lot of different hats as an art advisor, as an artist, as a gallerist, and although you did a lot of things mainstream, you've also challenged the way things are done and made sure that the usual suspects that could easily be overlooked across different lines of diversity have a place during this success. I mean, Miami has a lot of success right now, but there's also a lot of challenges.
Yeah.
And I think that you can relate a lot to both Caro and Mariela. Can you talk about some of the ways that you've been innovative and challenging the ways things have been done?
For sure. Here. Well, Maddie is talking about a project that I have that is called Clandestina, which was started as a clandestine gallery in my apartment. And it turned into so many other things, including an art fair, which I try to provide space for artists to represent themselves. Which is funny because around the time that I started that, I gave a talk with Creative Mornings Miami, and I was assigned a season, and the season was the underdog. And we don't have that word in Spanish. Like those differences between the Spanish and the English language, just considering that we're so close and we grew up with the United States as a reference, are so amazing because you cannot translate it. So I was like, oh, the underdog. And it's like, well, it's the person that people bet that is probably gonna lose. And I was like, oh, that's great. So I started building that around my interest for the artist. It's just so, when you're the underdog, it's so hard to not see it as a value. And I started betting for my friends. And when I got here, I didn't know but my sister. She has been here for 20 years. And we used to do groceries at Walgreens because we didn't know where to go, and no one told us. So little by little, through my partner, he showed me Miami in a different way. He grew up here, and he went to Coral Gables High and Cooper Union, and all these things that I didn't know much when I was studying in Mexico City. I used to bring an egg to art class because that's what was required. So it was a very different world back then. And I started making friends, people that belong to Fountainhead, people like Catherine Maxwell, people that I met years ago. I met you in that world.
Yes.
And I have met your parents, and I met your brother. I would say Mari comes from an amazing family with a deep interest for culture. So it just started making sense, and I wanted to give back. And I found my way. I was very interested in philanthropy. I have a background in business. I started my PhD in economy. And it's just about being part of this network. And that's something that I want to think that I am giving to my daughter as a legacy. That weight of believing in culture and believing in artists and what they're doing and what they're thinking. So that's, in a nutshell, what you're mentioning. And thank you so much for letting me share that, really.
Of course, it's an important story to share. Nicole, like Nuria, you've also played a part in Miami's success. And from the standpoint of working with artists and also telling the story. There is an issue that needs to be addressed with Latinos not having the same representation in the American art market as others. As a storyteller, how have you gone about addressing that?
Yeah, so I didn't mention part of my bio is that I'm also a writer and a critic. I've published a lot of artist profiles, exhibition reviews, and just kind of like general trend pieces about the art market for magazines like Art News or Art Newspaper or Artsy. And I was kind of like just digging a little bit into this idea of, you know, what does Latino representation look like in the US art market, and out of 2,000 shows surveyed in 2022, only 5.5% of the artists in those shows were Latinos. And when you think about the fact that the current US population is 19% Latino and is projected to grow to 50% by the year 2050, these numbers really don't add up. And I resonated a lot also with a line in the play where she asked, you know, who the artist for. And this is obviously something I think about a lot because I, you know, as a mantra, the work that I do really supports artists, but personally I'm most interested in their ideas. And I think that while the collector side of the art world can be really jarring, if there weren't Latino artists or Black artists or Asian artists, artists of diversity making work, then we may not ever understand what their experience is like. And so even though it feels yucky when collectors are fighting over an artist's work, the fact that that work can make it into a room where people perhaps do not understand the Cuban experience can see the work, ask a question, and suddenly learn something that they didn't, I think is the power of art. And I think it's important to keep pushing that and to keep uplifting that. And so what I try and do as a writer and what we try and do at Fountainhead always is focus on bringing artists who are outside of that kind of traditional white world, right? So we bring a lot of artists from all over the world, but we have a trajectory of looking at artists who are mostly of color. I think we've brought like something like 67% of the artists that we've worked with are of color. And I personally, you know, really focus on uplifting those artists through my writing as well.
Awesome. So Betty, Alexis Shear did a masterful job of celebrating Spanglish and really allowing us to own it. I mean, some would argue that in Miami we have our own dialogue, and through your alter ego of Betty Pastelitos, you've shown the world at a grand scale how we celebrate, how we talk in Miami. Can you talk about how you started to do that and why it's important?
Yeah, I love this question. You shared that story that you went to Massachusetts and you realized people didn't talk like that. I went to FSU for 2 years, and when I first moved to Tallahassee, it really hit me like a ton of bricks, like to the point where I went into a deep depression, lots of anxiety, like I couldn't deal with it and I didn't realize what was happening. And it was like the first time like living that experience of being outside of Miami. And growing up, my parents we didn't travel, we didn't do like, the most we would do is like Orlando, St. Augustine in 4th grade. But I hadn't experienced the world like that, so it was really hard for me that first move to Tallahassee. Even hearing you saying like that the United States is only 19%, like in my mind I'm still like, what? Because I still think like Miami, I'm like, no, it's more. But so the whole, even Betty Pastelitos, I remember it was like my freshman year at FSU, we had to make like a username for like a forum, something. And I wanted to show people that I was like from Miami, and I don't like my maiden name. It's too long, nobody can pronounce it. So I was like, I don't want to use like my first name, last name. So that's how Betty Pastelitos came about, because like I wanted to show like something that I was from Miami. And then I just kept using that for usernames for Tumblr, LiveJournal, like every time I needed a screen name for something. So then when Instagram became a thing, I used Betty Pastelitos. And then slowly I started making content because I truly love like making people laugh. Like I've always been like class clown, that funny girl. So then I started making videos and I really found my niche in just like showing how Miami people are, how Latinos are, how important Spanglish is. I really learned like that Spanglish was a thing when I went away to FSU. And even I only lasted there 2 years, and then I transferred to UM. And then even at UM, two of my best friends, one was from New Jersey and one is from Wisconsin. And I would say things like, eat shit, and she's like, what is that? And I'm like, how do you not? And then for me it was funny because I'm like, but you're in Miami. Like, I was in Tallahassee and left because but like, now you're here, you learn. Like, so I like that experience of moving away for 2 years really helped me understand and love, like, that I grew up speaking Spanglish, that I had that culture, that it really made me appreciate it. And it's really, I share that with my daughters a lot, and that's really important to me.
That's so funny. When I was in college, I had a similar situation with my username, and mine was HaitianSensation@AOL.com. So I have a follow-up question. So I loved in the play when Jenny said, "What is chisme?" After Juan said Picado, you have your chisme face on. So Betty has a video that on social media has hundreds of thousands of likes and God knows how many views. And it's called Chisme Math. And we're going to do a demonstration of Chisme Math for you. Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. So how I came up with this video is because my husband was asking me, like, how are you going to announce to the world that you're pregnant with your third? And then I was thinking about how, like, you told one person, not one person. So this is how Chisme Math came to be, right? And I'm a teacher, so I like to explain everything, right? So Chisme Math is, you have chisme, right? And you only tell two people, right? You only tell your best friend and mommy, of course. Mommy always hears first, right? But your best friend, she thinks it's harmless to tell her coworkers, so she tells two coworkers because they don't know you, right? So she tells two coworkers. And mommy, well, I don't know how it's going. So mommy, right, she actually tells her nail lady, right, because the next day she had a nail appointment. Same thing, she's like, ay, I no la conoce, it doesn't matter, right? So she tells the nail lady, and since she's really close to her, the mail lady, right? So then those two workers, they love that information, so they tell their husbands, right? And then the nail lady starts telling all her clients the chisme that you told her, right? So now the nail lady in one day has already told 10 other people. The mail lady tells her 3 cousins who came over that night for dinner. Then these husbands start telling their coworkers and golf buddies. And then these 3 cousins are telling their friends at a bridal shower. So even though you only started telling 2 people, if you count it in the end, and half of these are like multiplied, right? In the end, 329 people found out. So this is why chisme is so dangerous. You think it's harmless, but it travels fast. News travels fast.
I love it.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
For a gringo, is chisme, does it mean gossip?
Yes, yes.
Miami's favorite pastime.
Yes.
I love chisme. Don't tell me any chisme. Everyone's gonna know.
Yes. My best friend, she's always gonna know everything anybody ever tells me.
So I'd like to open up for a Q&A. Any questions?
No.
Abuela?
Abuela, do you have a question? It's like, do you have chisme? Do you have chisme? She probably
Our
does.
family group chat is CNN. Chisme News Network.
I love that.
That's amazing. Okay.
No, I don't have a question. I just have to say, I give you ladies a lot of credit for doing what you're doing with as much as you have at home. But I think that that's what women do today.
Mm-hmm.
Women don't stay home. I mean, when I had my children, if you went to work, it was awful because it meant that your husband couldn't support you. It's so different today. And it's a hell of a lot more difficult than it was in my day. So I give you tremendous credit for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My daughter, to follow up on that, my daughter right now, my 10-year-old, she's watching Young Sheldon. She just finished it. And I pop in and out of episodes, and there's a mom who gets pregnant on the show, has the baby, and now she wants to go back to work, and everybody's up in arms about it, except for the grandma, like the progressive grandma's like encouraging her to go, and even the baby's father just cannot believe she's gonna go to work. And I'm watching my daughter watch it, and then I asked her, I was like, what do you think about that? Do you think that she should go back to work? And then she tells me, because I worked from home, like I said, I was in and out of education for 12 years, but I worked from home for the last 8. So I was at every school play, at every field day, at everything. And this year my daughter was like, it's my last, because she's in 5th grade, it's my last trick or treat of elementary and you're not gonna be there. And I'm like, but Mom, I was at the last 6. You know, so then I asked her, I was like, how do you feel? Do you think she should go? And she was just telling me like, well, you know, when her daughter, like the character's daughter, goes to school, then maybe she could be a room mom and still help. So it's like she was like supporting the mom going to work, but also wanting to tell her like, but still be at the daughter's school thing. So yeah.
How old is this child?
My daughter, she's gonna be 11 next month.
So
Yeah.
she's really old enough to understand.
Yes. Yeah, and very, very smart kid.
Yeah, and just, I want to follow that up too, because I think staying at home with kids is a very hard job. So, like, I look at your generation, I say, wow, like, you know, my mom did that, and for some reason I grew up thinking, I don't want to do that, I wanted to have a career. And I think that the good thing about, you know, women working today is that we do have flexibility, and we do kind of make it up for ourselves as we go along. You know, I work predominantly from home, and I don't miss anything for my kids. You know, the founder of our organization is a mother as well, and so she gets it. You know, there are some women who are older who are like, I suffered, you have to too. But the empathetic ones with careers are like, no, be there for your kids. And I think that you know, neither way is easy, but I honestly feel, I really do feel, even though it's very hard, that I do have the best of both worlds, because I get to do what I love and fulfill myself creatively and professionally, but then I also get to be there for my kids.
I want to say something that may be frowned upon. My mom is one of 15.
Oof.
And my dad is one of 10. And I grew up around this like very rich family. And also my parents are in the younger side of their siblings. So I grew up with they grew up with people that I was their aunt, but they were younger than me. That's a reality that I'm never gonna see my daughter have. Mm-hmm. And I love my job, but now that I have my daughter, I really love spending time with her, and I take that interaction very carefully because it's addicting. Mm-hmm. Like, I look forward to spending the time with her, and I can be exhausted. We were talking about exhaustion right now. But somehow you just keep going. Like, you keep going, and it's fulfilling. And I feel it's a very dangerous thing. I work because I love what I do. But I also work because I feel a lot of pressure from, like, you know, like, you made it this high. What is next? And most of the pressure comes from me, because before the pressure came from my mom and my dad, and that's not, I'm closer to 40 than I'm to 30.
So am I, girl.
So it's just in me, but I would have 10 kids if I could. Like, I wanted a very large family, and I wanted my kids to have that opportunity. I am very lucky that I have a stepdaughter. She's 8, and my daughter is gonna have that experience in a way, in the American way, but in a way.
Yeah.
My daughter is 9 months and change.
Oh, okay.
And she's amazing. She's lovely, smart, fierce, very, very brave. I hope you can meet her one day.
Like a mother.
Thank you.
Yes. Any other?
Yeah, I was going to ask if you feel any pressure in the professional world to be more at home.
You're asking me?
Being at home.
Oh.
just sort of like, I mean, I've seen it before, that this like expectation, once you become a mother in your professional world, to spend more time at home and not be in the workplace as much.
Yeah.
You did?
No, I, like, with the pregnancy now that my job is asking me, like, how much time are you gonna take off? And I was like, honestly, I'm not sure yet. And I love my students. I have 4 students with autism and 4 with Down syndrome. And most of them are staying with me next year, and I'm obsessed with them. And I'm like, it depends, like, who's gonna cover me? Like, who's coming after me? So I think that, I was like, I don't know how much time I wanna spend away from also my students, because those are my babies too. And then they're like, but don't you wanna be home with your baby? And I'm like, oh, no, I'm gonna be with the baby at least 3 or 4 months, because I want to. But I don't know if, like, what point in the school year I'm gonna come back. And another teacher, she just had a baby, and she came back right away for financial reasons. She had to come back to work. And they were kind of like, but doesn't she want to be with the baby? And then it's like, she does, but she can't. Like, she needs the money. And, you know, another teacher was telling me, like, but why aren't you taking a full year off? Because I was lucky enough to take a year and a half off with my second daughter. And she's like, but why aren't you going to take a whole year off? And I was like, because I love my job, and I love my students, and they're my babies too. But I might only come for half a day. Because it's like, I do want to have the best of both worlds still. And now with this pregnancy, they are constantly asking me when I'm like, and I know also with administration, they need to know, like, who are they going to hire? Like, do they need to find a full-time substitute? I know that part too. But even for my coworkers, they are asking me a lot.
Betty, when are you due?
In November 18, 19, 20.
Oh, a Scorpio.
Yeah, it's a Scorpio boy.
My dad is November
Wait
19.
for it, girl. That's my son. Candela.
No, I never really, no, but I feel like my situation's very unique. You know my situation. Catherine, all-women team, small organization, big impact. So I never really felt pressure to stay home, but also, like, I really do feel I have the best of both worlds. Like, you know, I wouldn't take Zoom meetings with my baby on my boob. Like, I'm just, you know, sitting there breastfeeding. No one's blinking an eye. You know, technology today, I had that silent wearable pump, and if I had to go to like an in-person meeting, I would have it in there, and my breasts would look huge, and people would think it was just my breasts, and it wasn't. I was literally extracting milk.
Those are the best.
Yeah. So, no, I never really felt pressure to stay home, but like my kids are really integrated into my work life too, I think. They come to things, and yeah.
For me, he's with me, so he knows, but I had a work trip when my daughter was about 2 months. We went to Spain. And there's all these things about you're not supposed to travel, and it was just very different to what I thought I was going to be doing when I had kids. Again, I think the pressure was me trying to keep on going because I didn't want to have a disconnection with what was going to happen next. In a position as director, in a position of development, you're constantly talking with people that are funding you. But I found my very, very sweet spot with the art moms. We had 2 artists, Lonnie Johnson and Chaya Riggins. I don't know if you know them, but they're fierce women with kids. And they were always uplifting me. And they were like, no, mama, you're going to be okay. All the artists' moms were so supportive. And really that kept me sane and strong. I was so tired. I was sleepy all the time and crunching budgets for grants and having board meetings, which you need to be on point.
Always.
And I was exhausted. And I learned some tutorials for my makeup to look a little more awake. Really, it worked. And I just went from one thing to the next. When I had my kid, I just put that on the side and absorbed every second of it. I have so many good memories of her bird, of like everything. And I remember more than that than the board meetings, even though I was trying to put more attention to the other thing. So it's a lot of pressure when you're a high level executive in the nonprofit or the for-profit world, because you depend on your clients and your clients depend on you. So I think there should be more ecosystems for women to exist in the way that we need to exist today. And I think we're building them.
Amen.
Amen.
Any other questions? So thank you to this wonderful panel. I don't believe in accidents. I think this was meant to be. And I think we got a lot out of this. So thank you very much for being with us tonight. Until next time.